Inflation has had its biggest increase in 15 months, and higher electricity prices and council rates are to blame. Figures out today show prices rose 3% in the 12 months to September, up from a rise of 2.7% in the year to June. The government's brushing it off because the inflation rate is still within the Reserve Bank's target band. But an economist says it continues a trend of increasing costs for household essentials. Political correspondent Zane Small reports.
This video imagines the proposed Northern Expressway, a 4-lane 100-kilometre highway connecting Auckland and Whangarei, avoiding problematic parts of the Brynderwyne Hills. It would be built in 3 stages and as part of the government's Roads of National Significance wish list. 17 infrastructure projects that, as of today, are one step closer to reality.
The Transport Agency Board has now endorsed investment cases for all of the roads of national significance, with the most recent endorsements including sections 2 and 3 of the Northland Expressway.
The government has announced $1.2 billion to progress the projects through consenting, design, site investigations, property purchases and some early works.
Obviously, it has huge economic benefits.
The government's economic credibility has been under strain after unemployment reached a 5-year high, GDP contracted nearly 1% in the 3 months to June, and tens of thousands of New Zealanders have moved overseas. And figures out today show the cost of living continues to bite, with inflation reaching a 15-month high.
Figures out today from Stats NZ show consumer prices increased 3% in the 12 months to September, up from a 2.7% increase in the year to June.
It was driven by housing and household utilities, so things like electricity, which was the main contributor. We actually saw prices increase the highest rate they have since the late 1980s.
Electricity prices increased 11.3% over the past year. Local council rates were 8.8% higher, while vegetable prices rose 12.5%.
A lot of the large increases were in things that households can't avoid, so local government rates, food, electricity. So it's not like they're in the kind of discretionary spending where households can pull back their consumption. So it's still a difficult time for households.
And wages aren't rising enough to match it.
There's a lot of spare capacity in the labour market, so there is a lot of competition for roles. So when workers are looking to find a new role, they're not in the best position to bargain for a high salary. So we are seeing labour cost growth a bit slower than inflation at the moment.
This government said they were going to fix inflation. Inflation came down because the Reserve Bank hiked up interest rates. Now inflation is going back up again, largely because of decisions that the government is taking.
They're saying that you promised that inflation would go down while it's going up. What's your response to that?
Well, inflation is at 3%. It's within the band of the Reserve Bank. Under Labor, it was at 7.3%. So we have brought inflation down.
And he hopes to bring the economy up by building new roads.
Well, OK, Zane, could this inflation spike mean the end of mortgage rate cuts?
Well, Sam, you'd be forgiven for thinking so, because the Reserve Bank is responsible for keeping inflation under control, and it does so by setting the benchmark for interest rates. And at 3%, the inflation rate is right on the edge of the central bank's target. But Matthew Allman, the economist I spoke to from Infometrics, told me today's inflation data is unlikely to sway the Reserve Bank, and he is predicting another rates cut next month. And there's a few reasons for that. The expectation is that inflation will start to decline from here and reach about 2% in the middle of next year. And because after such a dramatic decline in GDP in the June quarter, it's likely the Reserve Bank will be aware of the need for more economic stimulus.